Alrighty. Good morning to me, because at the time it is 7:13. Today's the day where Space IPO goes open on the NAS 100, and we witness probably the world's greatest rug pull occur, because that's what investors do. Use the common people. Well, it is what it is. Truly. Alright, today's word of the day. And I almost say that as not as a disregard for what it is, but rather that as you're aware of it, you no longer become part of the system. You try your hardest not to be part of the system, although even they themselves are a part of the system. They want to say that they're winners, when in reality, there are no winners. Nor are there losers. Maybe it's copium. Maybe that. Today's word of the day is professor. Professor. It's a noun. A teacher of the highest rank in an institution of higher learning. 2. A teacher or instructor. That's what a professor is. Part of me wants to be a professor, actually. In my lifetime, I have this roadmap where I come back into the workforce rather than going straight into a PhD program to get a handle on reality. And what I mean by handle on reality is what's actually happening on the work floor for the common people. The people who show up every single day, consistently at the same time, making an okay amount of money, like minimum wage, or a bit above minimum wage. Where I found that my degree, the jobs that people do on the common floor, my degree is not entirely required. You just train the person to do it exactly as is, and they'll do it. That's what a lot of chemistry is becoming. Just follow the SOP, follow what it is. And don't question it, because the results look great to the clients. So, yeah. And when you're hired on to re-implement a test where you're basically pioneering and doing all the troubleshooting, well, then that's when the degree really, really matters. You're asking questions and complexities and going back to your fundamentals on what you know, and it's actually great. But you get paid. You get paid the same as a Chipotle worker for doing that level of critical thinking. And it has you wondering, really, in life, man, to know that my knowledge is comparable to that of a Chipotle worker. I could show up and make your bowls for a lot less effort and a lot less mental work, but instead I do this. I understand. You start somewhere. You start somewhere in this track of life. However, when everybody else, including the teachers at your school, have been pushing and shoving down your throat, the higher education will lead to a higher paying job, yet they don't tell you themselves that they seeked out degrees and chose to be teachers because the degrees that they earned don't give them applicable jobs in the market, and so instead they just go and teach the subject and lead you down a similar path. Some will be the exception. That is true. However, they don't share the exact reality of it, the scope of it. And so that's led a lot of my generation, Gen Z, to begin to question this mindless following that we have been doing. Because it's not true. it's partially true, but for the majority, when it was a mass thing that education has pushed, for it to be false, well, now we just don't look at any person the same. Excuse me. However, I would like to say to my generation at this point in time that though everything looks rough, it gets better. It does get better. And I believe in times like this, where everything does not look so grand, instead of focusing so hard on the negative, those things that you are passionate about, go ahead and start putting a lot more energy into that. Because the anticipation that maybe society will collapse in our minds, well, if it does collapse and this whole internet thing doesn't exist anymore, did you acquire the skills in order to live without it? Did you really? Or have you become so consumed in the product that these people who are older than us have been shoving down our throats? I sit here and I post on YouTube because I've watched a lot of YouTube. I sit here and I talk like this because, truthfully, at a time when it seems like nothing is changing or improving, and if anything, it keeps getting worse, I say that as it continues to go down, it will get better. But you must grit your teeth, you must bite the bullets, and you must endure and be strong for yourself, for the things that you desire, because your opportunity will arise as long as you continue to show up. Continue to put in that hard work, because it may be your day one day, as long as you keep showing up. Show up for yourself, not for the other people, not for the external validation that you believe other people give you. Don't do it for them, do it for yourself. And I'm going to quote Gary Vee here, an entrepreneur, and this, you might say he's an entrepreneur, he makes his money, they just sell motivational stuff, like Tony Robbins, Ty Lopez. Just list as many entrepreneurs as you want to, as they just try to sell you a course, make you rich, this and that. Fine. However it worked for them, and you might say, well, I don't want to do that to people. Neither do I. Neither do I want to sell a falsified idea through a course or through this or that. I want to make a lasting change. But beyond the point of what I was trying to say there, Gary Vee's quote, and it may not be exactly, so go ahead and put a pinch of salt on the exact wording here, is, if you want it for others, you'll want it fast. If you want it for yourself, you'll do it slow. And you may say, well, I want it for myself, I want it as fast as possible and doing everything I can. However, if you do it as fast as possible because you quote-unquote want it for yourself, but you get frustrated at the fact that it's not already here, well, I'm really conflicted if you are doing it for yourself, because why would you be frustrated with yourself? Because the you that knows that it is coming will slowly accept that, one, it takes time. Two, that the fact that you showed up is a sign and a signal that it is working, that you can be proud of yourself and love yourself for still choosing each day to show up and get it done. And three, it keeps your day interesting. If you achieved it overnight, if you suddenly woke up and you were already in your dream body, I'm assuming many of you would be ecstatic. That'd be great. You woke up in your dream body. However, did you already build the discipline, the mindset, and the confidence to go ahead and live inside that body? And I'm saying this, especially in a time where people are taking, I want to say, things to go ahead and lose their weight, except as soon as they get off of it, they gain all their weight back. I would want to say that's another form of addiction. Another form of drug that is altering your mind, is altering what you do. And as soon as you get off of it, your life begins to change the same way they do. So understand that the process is slow, that it doesn't happen overnight, because your body is gearing you towards the mindset, the discipline, the confidence inside that body to go ahead and make sure you make the most out of it. And I believe what's most important is the confidence to have in the mindset, and that mindset will go ahead and reinforce the discipline. You gotta have sort of this confidence that it is going to work. And instead of the word confidence, I'm going to say it like this. You have to have the sort of delusion that it's just going to work and continue to do it. And people are going to look at you and be absolutely skeptical, tell you otherwise. But they are not inside your mind to know your own delusions on how it will work. Now, I may add this on top of it, that you also must be sensible to understand what is working and what's not. Don't be so far over the edge in your delusion that you begin to ignore the very obvious and apparent signs that it is not working. And by that, I mean, do you have a year's worth of data showing that it doesn't work? 3 days is not enough data to display it doesn't work. At least for the gym. Although different books that I've read will tell you to go ahead and statistically analyze your outcomes daily. However, I still believe that it shouldn't be taken immediately that same day, because jumping the gun will have you pivot too often, and pivoting too often doesn't give your body the moments and time to go ahead and adjust and adapt and begin to understand that this is what we're gearing our body to go ahead and pursue and follow. Be delusional about your craft. Understand that better times are coming. And most importantly, because I believe it's a concept that even I go ahead and struggle with, is that money comes and goes. It's not all about money. It's about being present in the now. And it might sound like copium. However, I assure you, people can give you a lot of money, and many people will begin to buy all the things that they want. And once they get all the things that they want, how do they go ahead and move forward now? I'm not saying don't chase the money, don't do this, don't do that. No. Still be ambitious about money. Understand that maybe money might be a byproduct of some of the things that you do. But that's not the main focus for the things that start off as that. And this is more a reminder to myself about my drawings than I do to go ahead and emotionally express some parts of me. Show up for yourself. Holy cow, that pre-workout dried my throat there. But show up for yourself. Show up for you. And there was in the previous video, in the description, I was talking about addiction being a familiar pain. Now that I understand that it's a familiar pain, I understand now when people get addicted to certain games. Let's use League of Legends as an example, because it's one of those things where even though you might be dog at the game, you still show up because you're like, well, I'm familiar with the fact, and I can go ahead and blame this and this and this. It's true, and I no longer... No, let me not say it like that. Now that I am aware of the idea that addiction is a familiar pain, it is now the action behind approaching it with awareness that will go ahead and alter the position I stand with certain connections. Addicted to a familiar pain. It's like toxic relationships. It's almost like an addiction. It's familiar. Even though it's painful, it's familiar. So, yeah. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. You also may flip the script and say that addiction's a familiar comfort. But hidden inside in that comfort, for smokers, is the coughing, is the dry mouth, is the muck on your teeth. And this is saying someone who has smoked before and knows that feeling. The feeling of the hangover and feeling lightheaded, feeling that warm, fuzzy feeling, understanding that your tummy's full, and that it might give you an excuse for certain actions when you drink all the time. That I want to be noticed for the pain that I caused on myself through my skin, and markings that will get people aware to sympathize with me, because that's what's comfortable to me. Signs of help. Thank you for listening. And most days I'm rambling and it's mindless talking. However, I read a post where it says say the things that other people aren't willing to say. Say those things. And these are some things that I think people have thought about, and they're like, I've said that to other people, but they don't go post it, or they don't go put it somewhere, and they don't push it in some way, because pushing this box is going to create space for discomfort in people to go ahead and yeah. Wherever this video may end up, most times I get these last few ones have been 0 views. I understand that this is the point where they tell you like the shadow work's being put in, where you still show up even when no one else is watching, for your own sake. I regardless of what happens, even if this one also gets 0 views and propagates forward, I still read the dictionary. I'm the one that's learning each day as I open up that book. I have these as memories to see how much I've developed as a person. I've constantly done that throughout my life. Like, I've journaled since I was in high school. I've recorded videos of myself talking to myself to sort of remind future me that current me is working hard. And those videos where I'm like sitting inside just a college suite, like they're the college, like, what are they called, conference rooms. And I'm talking to myself, I'm like, dude, I'm busting my ass off for future you now, so you go ahead and do it. And seeing those videos, now, like, post 4 years, post a year, post some time, to see how much I've changed my mindset, or to understand, like, wow, like, this is what caused this sort of cataclysmic change. Makes me smile to know that me then is working for me now. Always pushing this boundary. The me here is speaking to the me that exists in the future, to look back on and understand that we've been taking these leaps of faith every single time by showing up. Going to a local, like, esports center to hopefully play local fighting games, and no one else will show up, is still a leap of faith, because I assumed in my mind that maybe there's going to be like 20 people here who are casuals, always show up, and I'm entering a space where I'm the new fish, just to realize that I'm the only fish currently sitting inside this show. And it was to make friends. And yeah, this one's been long. I'm already at the gym, just sitting in my car. I gotta go drink water, go do my cardio, and continue forward. Smile today, because they are going to pump the hell out of the space IPO. The general retail, who's just following trends, because that's what a lot of people do, is just follow trends, is going to be the liquidity for the investors who've already had shares with SpaceX, who've already been granted these shares to go ahead and sell. They sell their stocks for whatever it is, because you can't buy partials, so you have to own a whole share, so they don't have to worry about only getting cents to the dime. They get hundreds to pull out and leave the public in disarray. There's no right or wrong, there just is. Your perspective on it, your take. And that's what makes it so different. Time for me to go work out. Thank you for listening. If you're listening to this in retrospect, and another quote I'll say, because this is another part where I'm at, is some chapters are best left unwritten. I keep trying to finish off some chapters I believe in my life, and I am actively making a decision to think about them and just close them out entirely, because I decide what I want to do moving forward. And I believe in my mind I still have this, like, people-pleasing mindset, to feel accepted, to be kind. Because you still want to see the good in everybody, but not everybody is quote-unquote good. There just is. That's just how they are. How someone isn't good or bad. That's just them. That's they. You might say that's a bad person. What they do, their actions are bad. How did they get to that point? Sometimes you ask. That's what makes movies. That's what makes shows. That's what makes books. Those things that people dive into. Yeah, it's time to go ahead and not close out the chapters of my books, but put the period at the end of the sentence and leave it there as a cliffhanger, because sometimes we don't know how the rest of the life of those movie actors go. We never get a sequel. We never get a sequel sometimes. So, thank you. Mwah.